starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi there, everybody. We are going to go ahead and get started with today's webinar. Today's webinar is our ConnectSMART SP dashboard creation and configuration kind of deep dive. On Tuesday, we ran through an overview of all the various pieces of the dashboards. And today we are actually going to focus on specifically the dashboard browser and what you can do inside of the dashboard itself in both view mode and edit mode. And what you can do to edit and change widgets from the actual dashboard after they've been published. And if you check our webinar schedule, you'll see where we actually have the deep dive scheduled for the widget creator and our data queries as well. So just keep that in mind, but today we're going to focus on everything that we can do from the dashboard section, the dashboard browser, and with the dashboard open. So today is not the day where we're going to create custom gadgets or anything like that, but those are definitely scheduled here in the very near future. So I'm going to go ahead and get started by taking us right on down to the dashboard browser. Here in the dashboard browser is where we're going to see anything that we have published as a dashboard, and if we toggle the show templates, that's where we can actually see some available templates that we've created. So if you had created some of your own templates, you'd be able to edit them here. Our templates will override and we will be locking down, so you'll have to duplicate those to edit them yourself, but you can always create something from a template. So instead of duplicating it and making another template, you could actually publish a dashboard from one of these existing templates and go ahead and that'll show up down here in your regular dashboard view. So I will just show you what this guy looks like. So I'll create, and I'm actually going to do the service management template. I'm going to give it a name. Okay, so you'll see that is now visible here in my dashboard browser. And I'm going to go ahead and pop over into view mode where we can take a look at what that dashboard looks like without me doing anything to it. Okay, so this is what it looks like right out of the box. And our templates, you'll find a lot of the time, if we actually take a look at the settings for the dashboard, will be set to allow you to inherit things like filtering down to a specific service board or a specific group of members. You will find that actually in the edit mode side of the dashboard. First, I am going to switch back over. There we go. So from the view mode, it has a few options, but I'm going to actually go ahead and show you the settings first in edit, and then you'll see how that sort of plays out over on the view side. So the settings are specific to the dashboard itself, not any of the specific widgets that are on the dashboard. So here's where we would name it. This is the name you see in the list in the dashboard browser. The description is going to be added as well, so you'll be able to see that from that screen. And the category, of course, is how it's also categorized in the list view under the dashboard browser. So these you can change at any time. The categories, you're not stuck using any particular set of them. You can rename them, name them anything you'd like as you go. The title tab allows us to add a title which is separate from this name. This name works in the list view and shows up there, but it's not visible on the dashboard itself. Whereas this is where we would put a title that we wanted to be visible all the time while the dashboard was published and in view mode. So as you see, that title will stay here regardless of the view mode that I'm in. So in full screen and edit and view, it doesn't matter. It's just going to always be visible. Most folks don't like to keep those, so I'm going to go ahead and remove that because they typically don't want a title cluttering up the screen real estate. And last but not least, on the dashboard settings side of things, we have the filters. And these are very, very nice. What they do is they keep you from having to update each of the widgets on your dashboard individually. So we have filters here that can be inherited by the widgets on this dashboard. And just because we've got something here and we have a default value does not mean that every widget displayed on this dashboard is actually abiding by that particular filter. It's only the ones that are inheriting that. And I'll show you in a moment where you can see if the individual widget is inheriting those features or inheriting those filters. But here is where, for instance, if I wanted to filter everything down to the help desk, I can actually do that at the dashboard level. And anything set to inherit my service board is going to go ahead and update. And you'll see my numbers will change a little bit. And so the reason that works that way is, if you take a look here, see where it's got this board name, dashboard board name. So this individual widget is set to inherit the board name, which it's coming from the dashboard settings. And these appear, as long as they've been set in the settings area, they'll show up here, available to be inherited. And you can certainly, now keep in mind, you can map this to something completely unrelated, so you are going to want to make sure you map it to the right thing. Because, of course, if I were to accidentally map my board name to look at my service type filter, I'm not going to get anything back. So just keep that in mind because it will allow you to map it to any of these that you've made available. So just keep that in mind. It's very quick to fix, though, if you happen to select the wrong thing. But that is how this board is set. So each of these should be inheriting. Yep, so these are all inheriting. The other thing you might want to take notice of is I also had days. So the days factor in on these where we've got average resolution hours, average res plan hours, hours entered, average hours waiting. But I want you to take a look. The average survey score is past 90 days. So even though I have a dashboard setting for days of 7, this gadget is actually looking for 90 days, which is set at the actual widget itself. So this one is not inheriting the days from the dashboard. This one is a special case, and we want to see the average survey score over a longer period of time than we necessarily do for some of these other metrics. So just keep that in mind. Like I said, if even though it's set here, it does not mean that every one of these is using it. But for convenience sake, things like service board, service type, member ID, those are things that, typically you're going to want that to be consistent across everything on a single dashboard. So save yourself some mouse clicks and use these dashboard settings instead of modifying each one of these individually each time. It just makes things a little cleaner, much more efficient for you. Okay. I'm going to take us back to view mode I just wanted to touch on that because the view mode has some of those options exposed. So the refresh will work if you are making changes to the dashboard or an edit, or it just hasn't updated in a minute and you want it to refresh the data that's displayed. Most of these are going to refresh pretty frequently, so you won't find a reason to use that, but so often. Another thing you'll have here is the theme. Right now you can toggle between a dark and a light mode. We do have plans to add additional themes in the near future. And also additional options for you to customize the colors and the color schemes, the palettes, and some of these series colors yourself. Just stick with us. I'm sure we'll have webinars that cover those as well when that's done. But right now, we keep it pretty simple. It's just a light or a dark. Dark typically looks better up on a display on the wall. And if you've got your dashboards running locally on a monitor, typically folks like the lighter one a little bit better. The filters here in view mode are coming from the dashboard settings. So that is where I typed in help desk. It's defaulting. But I can take that out and I can pick one of my other boards and I can change my days. But keep in mind my subtitles all say 7, so I would want to change that if I were to change this. So voila, everything has changed. Our admin board does not have SLAs typically associated with things, so there's not a lot of SLA activity going on over there. So you'll see all these go into null. And let's see, let's try a different board. Let's pull help desk 2. There we go. So you'll see everything kind of updates itself even without having to hit refresh. So that's what I mean about the refresh button. It's there, it's available, but typically things are going to refresh so quickly that you're not going to find a reason to have to use it too much. Now, let's say I only want to see a few people and I don't need to see all these folks, right? I have too many people, don't want to see them. I'll actually come down here and, whoops, interesting. So let me show you, see how my drop downs are working on these other guys, and this one, not so much. It looks like we might have missed a spot. So I'm going to go to that member ID. I'm going to change that to member lookup. And there we go. There we go. Okay, so member ID is what that is this is just looking for the folks on these gadgets that are looking specifically for assigned resources. So this is where we could actually go and say, well, I only want to see Dan, David, Gail, and myself. And that is going to go ahead and, oh, wait, are these inheriting or no? Let me double check. I thought these were set to inherit. Nope, they are not. Ah, I see. Somebody's got a typo. That's why this is not inheriting, and that's definitely not going to work either. Save. There we go. Oh, let's refresh. All right, member ID is back there, and these guys we're going to want to inherit that member ID from the dashboard, and that should fix momentarily when we switch back. Let me hit apply. Make sure you do hit apply when you're making changes in here. You can make changes and not hit apply and hit save, and it's only going to change whatever you've applied. So if you're modifying a number of different gadgets on the same dashboard, you may not want all of them applied, so that's why we give you that kind of granular control there. So I'm going to point this one to member ID. Since we had that typo there, it wasn't finding these. And here we go. So I'm going to go ahead and save, switch back to view. And oh, it looks like that. Okay. Gail, can you guys see again? It looked like it was telling me it paused.
Yeah, now I can see that.
Okay, sorry, GoToWebinar was yelling that it paused screen sharing. So as long as you guys can see everything. All right, so back to the filter in the view mode. So in view, I'm going to go ahead and remove help desk and not filter down to a particular board. But again, I'm going to go grab those members I want to see. So I just want to see Dan, David, myself, and Gail. And we should see, ta-da, very quickly everything updates. So these dashboard filters are very, very convenient. And you definitely want to take advantage of these. So let's see. All right, so I'm going to go back to edit mode because I want to touch on a few other things. Now, let's say I want to fill in some space down here. I want to add a widget. I want to clone a widget. Adding a widget is going to pop up a list of my published widgets, and those are coming from my widget creator, which we will touch on in, I want to say, 2 weeks. I believe it's the week after Christmas we will be having that one. But that's the one where we will touch on how to create these widgets and get them so that they show up here. But for today's webinar, we're assuming that those have already been added for you. You're using something out of the standard catalog, so we're going to keep it simple. So I am going to grab, let's see, let's do, I don't know, what do we like? Let's do idle tickets. And so idle tickets. So what this is looking for, idle tickets, is a ticket or a widget that looks for tickets that haven't been updated in however many days. So in this case, it defaults to 3. I'm going to go ahead and put it to 7. I actually just set it to inherit from the dashboard, so it just sticks with that 7 that everybody else is using. And I'm going to go ahead and show you. So when we're in the dashboard mode, it opens up that widget kind of big. So I'm going to go ahead and resize that, which you can do pretty much freeform. If you are so inclined, you can technically make this just go forever. And it'll let you mess stuff up just like that. So see that? I can move all my stuff everywhere. But it's very simple to move it back, drag it around, get it back where it was. So it's very easy to move things around, and just keep in mind that it will let you move things where you already have stuff. And I will break things. And actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to hit refresh and not worry about rearranging all those while you poor folks have to watch. And I will simply add another idle tickets and not rearrange everything. There we go. All right, so this is my idle tickets. I'm going to have it inherit my boards, just like the others on this dashboard. And I'm going to have it inherit my days. So if I change that at the dashboard level, it will update. So that's how you add a widget. Now let's say I want to see idle tickets, but I want to see idle tickets that have been idle for even longer. Let's say 10 business or 10 days. Well, I've already set this one up the way I want it. Let's see, I've got my idle. Let's say I've modified my title too. All these little fields are here where you can make those changes on the fly at the dashboard. But now that I've made those changes, I don't want to add another out-of-the-box idle tickets gadget, right? I want to keep pretty much everything I had there, everything the same except this. So what I'll do is I will just clone it. Ta-da! And everything is going to stay the same. Actually, let's go back to the first idle tickets and mark that one as 7. And I'm going to put that as greater than 7 days. And this one is going to be, let's do 10. So in that case, we are going to have greater than 10 days. Now see how my subtitles are a little too big? I'm going to go ahead and change those right there. Just pop in the number. And ta-da! Some of the other options you have here, aside from the font and the text fields, you can technically align things different ways. Typically, you're going to want stuff centered. You can move it up and down. Colors coming soon. That's not here yet, but rotation does work if you really feel the need to rotate a value. See that? I've just rotated my returned value. We're typically going to leave that blank, but if you have a reason to use it, it is available. So the other thing you'll want to be aware of at this level is the action here where I can disable my drill down. You'll see in the Widget Creator webinar where I select the widget that I'm going to drill down to and what should happen when I do that. But once I add it, let's say I don't want it, I can just disable it. So if I was going to publish this for, say, a customer and I don't want them to get in the drill downs, or I want to put it on a public URL, maybe show some customer transparency metrics, the average wait time, tickets in queue ahead of you, things like that. I don't necessarily want them to deep dive into my stuff, but I can at least expose, a few metrics for them, but disable that drill down. So that's why you have that option. If you need to expose dashboards to folks who shouldn't have access to the details, that's a nice middle ground there to go ahead and give them the data on the face of the widgets without letting them dig into all the details. So let's see, we have covered the browser, how to view, we've flipped through the themes, we have filtered. We viewed the templates and created a dashboard from a template and not from scratch yet, so I'll hit save. Okay. So let's do a brand new dashboard from scratch. There's really not much to it. Testing webinar. And there we go. So this will start out blank, empty, very boring. We'll go to edit. And what you're going to do at that stage is you're going to, just like we did before, you're just going to add whatever widgets you would like to see. And whoops, this is one from a prior build that was actually replaced. And whoops, let's add another widget. Got to see what we've got in here since this is a tenant I've been doing some staging on. Let's see. Aging. All right. So leave that. All right. So it'll let you pretty much resize anything to anything you like. Similarly, you could go much smaller. So this dashboard is hardly particularly useful for anyone. I don't know that anybody would need this particular combination of gadgets, but same thing as before. So one thing you'll notice when you have a brand new dashboard, there's no filters. So if you want to add filters to a dashboard, it's very simple. You're just going to go to the dashboard settings. You're going to hit new, make a new filter, and let's say we want to do member ID. The name that we call this parameter is going to be referenced by the query. So what's happening, it'll make a little more sense once you see it all together. So I'm going to go ahead and down here, the value source, this is where it's going to pull your available member IDs. Remember where the drop-down was coming in and you could pick your available members? This is where that's coming from. So here I'm going to pick my member lookup. As you'll see, we've got 27 different lookups available for you to use, everything from ticket statuses, which include both service and project tickets, versus regular service ticket statuses, service boards, service teams, project statuses, all those good things. So you don't have to type it in manually. You don't have to figure it out. We've made them available for you, and you can reuse them to your heart's content. And I'll do one more. I'll do, let's say, board name. Okay, so I'm going to hit save, and I'm going to refresh just to get those settings to become available for inheritance. And let's see, I want to go ahead and inherit the service board. And you'll see activities by rep due this month. There's absolutely no reason to inherit the service board because that does not exist in this case. These are just going to offer you the parameters that have been made available from the actual the data query behind it. So in this case, activities by rep due this month, we can filter by activity type, activity status, and member ID. Only one of those pertains to our inheritable settings. So the other two we would set directly on the widget unless we added a bunch more activities widgets, and then we could go ahead and add those up here. But since you're mapping them, the names that you put for those filters don't matter so much. You'll just want to point them at the right place, and it doesn't matter what you called it. One thing to keep in mind, though, I know at least currently, I don't believe the data validation is in place to enforce this, but you don't want to leave a space. So just keep in mind, make sure you keep that all together, either with underscores or just running it together. Same thing, you can still disable your drill down, not necessarily something I need to do right now. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save. Okay, I'm going to go to view mode. So this is my new dashboard that I made from scratch. And I'm going to go ahead and filter that down to the same, or the usual suspects that we had talked about earlier. And I want the help desk only. And the help desk is only actually being inherited by this one. I did not update my open ticket aging to inherit the dashboard. So just a reminder, we're going to have it inherit both of the, or just the one. Sorry, there's no member parameter on that. There we go. So back to view mode. When I change my filters, everything is going to inherit something from these. So we should see everything update on the board. Ta-da! Okay. All right, so let's see. see, we have these, just want to make sure I haven't missed anything. I have quite a detailed agenda here just to make sure we touch on everything. Okay. One thing to notice is the options you'll have available to you will differ depending on the widget type. So this is a text widget. So you can control the text, the font, the rotation, the horizontal and vertical alignment and margins. But then take a look over here. This is a chart. So you do have your title, and you can control the font size of the title, and you can change your chart type to things like an area or a line or a step. So these are, you can flip through these. Typically, we're going to pick whatever seems to be optimal for the data we're displaying, but you're not stuck with that. You can change that on the fly, even at the dashboard level itself. If you're coming from the CS4 land, our prior platform, you may be familiar with our charts where the pie chart and the donut chart were considered a chart just kind of like any other in terms of kind of grouping widget types. Now, the pie chart and the donut chart are handled as a separate kind of entity. So you'll be able to flip between pie and donut on that one, but you can't flip from a pie chart to a bar chart and vice versa. So just keep that in mind. It is very simple to make another one and just grab it, which we'll be covering in that webinar where we go through the widget creator. Does anyone have any questions right now? Because I am pretty much done with running through some of the features of the dashboard. So I can either take specific questions or demonstrate anything anybody would like to see directly, or I can go ahead and wrap up. Okay, it doesn't look like we have any questions at this time. I don't know if that's more of an issue of being 5 o'clock in the afternoon for a lot of you, or if we just covered everything sufficiently. One thing I do want to mention for everybody is the, you can't see this, sorry. I will open it up here. There we go. All right, so on our docs site, you'll see the home page has us here, and under training resources, we have the training and webinar video archive. You're going to see a page where I'll upload the recording for this and also links to each part of the video that covers these items in the agenda. And I wanted to also highlight that it relates, or it does link out to some related materials, like some other related webinars and the upcoming webinars. So we have the prior ones that we've already recorded, and then this is where you can actually see what we've got coming up next. So on the 29th is when we'll be deep diving into creating widgets and customizing with widgets. And then on the 7th, we'll be doing some reporting stuff in the report designer. And once we move on into January, the 14th, that's when those of you who want to deep dive into really customizing things, I'll be showing you how to prepare data queries and add parameters and incorporate those into custom widgets and dashboards. So I hope to see you guys there. And if there's no more questions, I will go ahead and wrap up and bid you all adieu. Looks like that's it. You guys have been great. Have a good one. Thanks. Hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.